fields, where we saw corn growing very well, also tobacco and other crops. Beyond this were cattle kraals, and in the distance we perceived a great number of cattle and goats feeding on the slopes. "This red bearded Baas must be very rich in all things," remarked the observant Hans when we had completed our investigations. "Yes," I answered, "rich and yet poor." "How can a man be both rich and yet poor, Baas?" asked Hans. Just at that moment some of the half breed children whom I have mentioned ran past us more naked than dressed and whooping like little savages. Hans contemplated them gravely, then said, "I think I understand now, Baas. A man may be rich in things he loves and yet does not want, which makes him poor in other ways." "Yes," I answered, "as you are, Hans, when you take too much to drink." Just then we met the stately Miss Inez returning from the store, carrying some articles in a basket, soap, I think, and tea in a packet amongst them. I told Hans to take the basket and bear it to the house for her. He went off with it and, walking slowly, we fell into conversation. "Your father must do very well here," I said, nodding at the store with a crowd of natives round it. "Yes," she answered, "he makes much money, which he puts in a bank at the coast, for living costs us nothing and there is great profit in what he buys and sells, also in the crops he grows and in the cattle. But," she added pathetically, "what is the use of money in a place like this?" "You can get things with it," I answered vaguely. "That is what my father says, but what does he get? Strong stuff to drink, dresses for those women down there, and sometimes pearls, jewels and other things for me which I do not want. I have a box full of them set in ugly gold, or loose, which I cannot use, and if I put them on, who is there to see them? That clever half breed Thomaso, for he is clever in his way, faithful too, or the women down there, no one else." "You do not seem to be happy, Miss Inez." "No, I cannot tell how unhappy others are, who have met none, but sometimes I think that I must be the most miserable woman in the world." "Oh no," I replied cheerfully, "plenty are worse off." "Then, Mr. Quatermain, it must be because they cannot feel. Did you ever have a father whom you loved?" "Yes, Miss Inez. He is dead, but he was a very good man, a kind of saint. Ask my servant, the little Hottentot Hans, he will tell you about him." "Ah, a very good man. Well, as you may have guessed, mine is not, though there is much good in him, for he has a kind heart and a big brain. But the drink and those women down there, they ruin him," and she wrung her hands. "Why don't you go away?" I blurted out. "Because it is my duty to stop. That is what my religion teaches me, although of it I know little except through books, who have seen no priest for years except one who was a missionary, a Baptist, I think, who told me that my faith was false and would lead me to hell. Yes, not understanding how I live, he said that, who did not know that hell is here. No, I cannot go, who hopes always that still God and the saints will show me how to save my father, even though it be with my blood. And now I have said too much to you who are quite a stranger. Yet I do not know why, I feel that you will not betray me, and what is more, that you will help me if you can, since you are not one of those who drink or—" and she waved her hand towards the huts. "I have my faults, Miss Inez," I answered. "Yes, no doubt, else you would be a saint, not a man, and even the saints had their faults, or so I seem to remember, and became saints by repentance and conquering them. Still, I am sure that you will help me if you can." Then with a sudden flash of her dark eyes that said more than all her words, she turned and left me. "Here's a pretty kettle of fish, thought I to myself as I strolled back to the waggon to see how things were going on there. And how to get the live fish out of the kettle before they boil or spoil is more than I know. I wonder why fate is always finding me such jobs to do. Even as I thought thus, a voice in my heart seemed to echo that poor girl's words, "Because it is your duty," and to add others to them, "Woe betide him who neglects his duty." I was appointed to try to hook a fish out of the vast kettle of human woe, and therefore I must go on hooking. Meanwhile this particular problem seemed beyond me. Perhaps fate would help, I reflected. As a matter of fact, in the end fate did, if fate is the right word to use in this connection. End of chapter 5 of She and Allan by H. Rider Haggard. Read by Lars Rolander.